Hello, welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute since I've done any kind of sit down video. It has been a crazy few months, and while I will be talking about that in probably a future vlog, but in today's video we're going to be talking about the books that I read in the month of July. So to give you a few stats, I read 7 books, which ended up being around 2,330 pages, and it took me an average of 4 days to finish a book, which is a little higher than my 2 to 3 days, just because of the fact that I felt like in July I fell into a little bit of a reading slump. There were books that I was picking up and putting down that I wasn't enjoying, and the books that I did pick up, it took me quite a while to finish them. So I'm hoping that going into August that my reading will be a little bit more picked up. I will also say that as of today, the day that I'm filming this video, I did reach my reading goal, which is very exciting because usually it takes me until like September, October, even November to reach my reading goal, but I did reach my reading goal of 55 books. So let's get into these 7 books that I read in the month of July. And starting off, this book I gave a 3-star, but I'm still debating if it's a 3-star or if unfortunately it's more of a 2.75 star. And that is The Field Guide for the Formerly Villainous. This is by Autumn K. England. There are a lot of things that this book did really great at, and there are a few things that I really struggled with this book. This follows our main character, Oakland, and Oakland has been for the last few years mind controlled by this evil sorcerer and has been controlled to do very terrible things. Once they have become free, they end up going to this very small village, buying a farm, and just trying to live out the life to their best possibility and trying to make kind of amends for the things that they've done and staying hidden. There, like I said, were a lot of things that this book did really great with, and let's start with that. So the things that I really enjoyed about this book is, one, how the author handled trauma and the kind of like mind control violation of the mind. Our main character, Oakland, has gone through significant trauma. Their body has been used to kill other people. That is a very traumatic situation, and I do think that the author handled that very well. The second thing that I really enjoyed about this book, and that we very rarely get in a lot of cozy fantasy or other books, and that is the queer normative world. And I think, once again, the author did an amazing job. I loved all the different characters, the different representation that you had. It was just really beautiful, and I enjoy books like that. I would also say that if you're thinking about like how to best describe this book, if you've ever played Stardew Valley, that's what this is. Stardew Valley, but within book form. I think was a very interesting take, because usually in cozy fantasy there's at least some like adventure aspect, whereas in this you're focused on cozy farming. What did I not enjoy that caused it to be a 2.75 3-star? And the thing that I struggled most with is that this book is marketed as cozy fantasy. I feel as if this book focused too much on the trauma, which is silly because I just said that this book handled the trauma well, but it was so focused on that I felt like I was tense most of the book, and because of that this really didn't feel cozy. Like, I didn't feel like I was laid back reading a cozy fantasy about farming, and it didn't leave me feeling very satisfied by the end of it. The other issue is I feel like with cozy fantasy it's a double-edged sword. So you either have a cozy fantasy that has a decent amount of action in it that keeps the readers engaged, and then there are cozy fantasies like The Field Guide for the Formerly Villainous that focuses too much on the laid back side of it, where you feel like nothing is happening. It's kind of like, it's slice of life is what it is. It's very much so everyday life, and I think maybe I'm the person that falls more into the cozy fantasy where the fantasy is a little bit more involved. The fantasy is mentioned in this, but it's not really talked about. It really was hoping for a little bit more sustenance, but at the end of the day, it's so sad because so many people loved this book. From there, I decided to go a little bit more serious with what I picked up, and I picked up As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow by this is by Zulfa Cato. This was a 5-star read for me. This book was mentally destroyed. We are following our main character, and this is during the Syria Revolution, and she was a pharmacist student who became into a pseudo doctor because of the fact that there was not enough doctors at the hospital, and she ends up, because of the amount of trauma that she ends up having this psychosis event where she ends up creating this imaginary individual, I would say, who is trying to, in a cruel way, trying to convince her to leave Syria, take her family with her so that she is safe. It's pretty much her mind's way of trying to protect herself. She wants to leave to protect her family, but at the same time she feels like if she leaves, she's abandoning her country. It's a story about a lot of different things, about trauma, violence, displacement from war, the trauma that our main character saw every single day. At 19 years old, she was doing things that no 19-year-old should be doing. This was based on an actual historical event, and an event that is still happening today. We're still seeing revolutions, we're still seeing war violence. There are so many things that I could say about it. As I've stated before in many other videos, videos, I am not a crier in my books. I don't cry, but this one did because there are scenes in here that I resonated with, because there were scenes surrounding mother and children, and as a mother myself, I burst into tears feeling those mothers' pain. And I would say that if you're going into this book, yes, look for the trigger warnings, but I do think that this is a book that everyone needs to read. I did read that one, and then I realized I needed a mental break from a lot of the trauma that I was reading. I did not realize that Heartstopper Volume 6 released, and I ended up picking it up that day as well as finishing it. So I did finish Heartstopper Volume 6 by Alice Oseman. I did give this one a 4-star, and it was still good. I really enjoyed, obviously, our characters and how Alice Oseman wrapped up this beautiful, wonderful, heartwarming series that we have been given over the last few years, and I am so grateful for this series. I feel like a part of me is in this series. This is just a wonderful graphic novel series. If you haven't read Heartstopper, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's probably one of the most heartwarming books I have read in a very, very, very long time. It's very sad and it's very bittersweet because Volume 6 is the last book that we're going to ever be given. I'm curious to see what Alice Oseman, though, is going to be doing next. I'm very excited. She's an auto-buy author for me, so anything that she creates, I'm most likely going to be picking up, and it was wrapped up very well. Now, I will say it's not a 5-star for me. It was a 4-star because I don't know if it felt like it was too rushed. I felt like at times we were given scenes and conversations that never really happened in the rest of the books, and they felt kind of jarring. Oh my gosh, how did this even happen? How did we get here? But at the end of the day, it's still Heartstopper. I would have always wanted more volumes. And then after having my lighthearted moment, I decided to go back to some seriousness, and it was another 5-star read. But I did pick up, finally, Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This was amazing. So a lot of people describe this one as Hunger Games but in space. I can see the aspects of Hunger Games in this book. I can see where people are getting that idea of Hunger Games. Yes, this was written after Hunger Games. Yes, maybe some of it was inspired. But when I was reading this, especially in like the last 200 and some pages, I was really seeing Lord of the Flies. This is a classic book if you haven't read it. And if you've ever read it, you kind of would understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to spoil this. And it was so interesting. I really enjoyed this idea of these different color classes. And then of course you have Darrow, our main character. He knows his flaws. He knows his problems, but he uses them to his advantage. The other thing about Pierce Brown is he has a very interesting writing. Pierce Brown's writing is very blunt. It's very straightforward. A lot of the fantasies that I read, it takes 50 to 60 pages to explain a scenery. Pierce Brown doesn't do that. He's very straightforward. He says, this is what this is what this is. Moving on, okay, action. I love that. Absolutely loved it. So there's that. Then after that one, I was like, okay, I need something unserious. And so I did pick up volumes 2 as well as volume 3 of the Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon by Beth Brower. This one, the volume 2, I ended up giving a 4-star, and volume 3, I ended up giving a 4.25 star. This is so much fun. It's like slice of life, but Victorian era, where you're following a very unconventional Victoria woman, Emma. She is surrounding herself with very interesting and sometimes questionable characters, and even her own actions are very questionable, but she's witty. I loved volume 2, but I really, really loved volume 3. I really felt like we were starting to really get to know the character. And I'm starting to see where some people are saying there's love interest. There are only 8 volumes. The 9th volume hasn't even released yet. There has been no TBD on that. And then of course the author has also said that this is going to be a 10-year project with 24 volumes. And then after reading Emma M. Lyon volumes 2 and 3, I decided to go back to some very somber moods, and I think there's definitely a theme going on around trauma. But I did pick up The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. The thing is about this book is that how do you rate something like this? I did give this a flat rating of 4 stars. It's really hard. You can't rate the book on the character. You can't rate the book on the writing. You can't rate the book on the setting, really anything tangible, because the thing is, at the end of the day, the character, she was a real girl. The setting was an actual point in history that happened. The writing, this is the writing of a young woman. Now, yes, was it translated, and maybe translations can be weird? Probably, but this was her writing. You can't rate this book based on anything that's in it, because it is the true story of a young woman that went through a very traumatic situation, and it was hard. This is just one of those books that I do believe everyone needs to read, kind of like As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. With everything that's going on, I think we really need to understand the past. and how the past is repeating, and it's becoming more and more prevalent every single day. There were things in here that I was noting that I'm like, this is still happening. Anne Frank makes this one sentence about how she hopes that in the future anti-Semitism will be gone and how people will think it was a joke of the past, and I'm like, but it's not. And there were other moments. I think what was the hardest thing for me to read is there are moments in here where Anne Frank will say, I can't wait, she wanted to be a journalist, and she's like, I can't wait after the war to be X, Y, and Z and to do this. And she said, and when the war is done, I can't wait to just lay in the field with the sun on my face. Those moments were the hardest for me because when you're reading it, you obviously know her ending. And then the fear, you can hear the fear in her writing, but you can hear Anne's hope. Even at the end of the day, yes, here's this joyful young woman who is doing the best that she can in her situation. It broke my heart, obviously. I don't know what it was about this month. I think, well, I do. I don't remember being this affected when I was younger, but that's, I think, because we didn't understand really what was happening. And now as an adult, I do. So there you have it. There are the books, these 7 books that I read in the month of July. Definitely let me know in the comments below what books you read in the month of July. I would love to catch up with you and just hear what you've been reading. And also, if you like my videos and you like read with me videos, reading vlogs, definitely subscribe to my channel for more videos. I will see you in my next one. Bye.